This is the Authority Company Podcast, conversations with leaders who are designing our future. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and today I'm joined by Akhil Gupta, who has spent decades at the top of global business, leading Blackstone India and holding senior roles at major companies like Hindustan Unilever. Then, a near miss during the Mumbai attacks pushed him to rethink everything. That moment set him on a new path, one that led to Harvard, deep study in human flourishing, and the creation of the Universal Enlightenment Forum. His new book, Love, Learn, and Play, breaks life down to 3 essentials that shape real well-being. Today, he shares what he's learned from that journey and why those 3 forces matter more than anything else. Akhil Gupta, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Joe, for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So much to talk about. And, first I want to start with his dream jobs, because I know, Akhil, growing up, we all have this idea of what a dream job is. And I often talk to, when I mentor young people, is like, don't think about a dream job, think about a dream life, because a dream job means that someone or something has to happen for you to get that. But if you create this dream life that includes a career, that leads to more fulfillment. But the reason I want to start with you is the fact that you had that dream job. You were Blackstone India, where a lot of people would probably, if they were to list the number of places they would want their dream job to be, it'd be there. Yet you walked away to study life and purpose. So let's go back to that decision, Akhil, because I'm sure in some cultures it'd probably be considered crazy what you did. What was your community like, the people around you, when you decided to make that big decision? Whereas, like I said, most people strive to their entire life to get to where you were, but you were at a point in your life where you're like, I'm good. Tell me about that decision.
So a lot of people thought that I was fired because how could I leave a job like Blackstone? So people who didn't know me, that's what they thought. People who knew me well, some of them thought that I stayed a little too long, which was true. If you look at my history, I had the dream job. My first job was a dream job in India, Hindustan Unilever, which was, by the way, the best job to have in India. It was the most admired company, and they took only 4 people from the whole of India, and I was one of them. I don't know how I got those jobs. And I left that after 6 years. And then I did a consulting job for 6 years. Then again, another dream job with Reliance Industries, working with Mukesh Ambani, who's the richest Indian, worth over $100 billion. Again, I was there for 12 years, but over 3 different assignments. So people who knew me, they say, hey, you lasted for too long. And the reason I lasted for too long was because I did want to leave after in 2012, which would have been about 7 years. But my boss won't let me, because he said the next generation is not ready. And Blackstone was so nice to me. It's one of the best organizations I ever worked for, that I could not say no. So I stayed back for 2 more years. So the reason is very simple. When with Blackstone, I had money, I had fame, I had power, everybody starting from prime minister down. And I remember seeing the rich list of 100 people. I met 97 of them personally. So anything you can think of in terms of the social success, I had it. Money, fame, power. And by the way, I enjoyed all what they call as the pleasure of the mammoth. I enjoyed them all. But then I was feeling a sense of lack, that once you have these things, they don't really mean much to you, seriously. And that's where, again, it just happened. A friend of mine was going to Harvard Advanced Leadership Institute, and he said they have a program where you can just, sort of be there for a year and do whatever you want, study. And to me, learning was always been very important. So I took that opportunity. I couldn't go with him because Blackstone asked me to stay longer. So I went there 1 year after. And there, in 2 years' time, I took 36 classes. And that basically, my book is the result of all those learnings and getting an opportunity to sit back and reflect and think, but think with the help of, wonderful professors and wonderful courses that I took. And I'm really pleased that I took that step, which many people did not understand at that point of time, but I did. And one of the most difficult decisions was that the first most difficult decision was when I left my best job in India then in 1979, go to Stanford. And this time I left the best job in India to go to Harvard. So that's the only difference.
Oh, that's great. And it's interesting too, because as a Generation Xer, Akil, I know that my gen was very much your career is tied to your identity. And you've had this sort of life where you've constantly reinvented yourself, and your identity was not always tied to what your role was. But for many people in your generation, it that was it. Like you were my name at blank, the company you worked at. That was your identity. It seemed like you didn't have that. You seemed like you felt like your life and career was more than what your position was.
Well, absolutely. And that credit goes to my parents, uh, where they instilled this sense of duty. And I think that also came from my religion as a Hindu. A lot of people think I was very ambitious to have these careers. Actually, I was just doing my duty, frankly speaking. When I went to school, I studied, which was my duty to go to IIT, which is like the MIT of India. And in IIT, studied hard. And unfortunately, I became top of my class in chemical engineering. So I got my job in levers. And I was doing my duty to levers, and I did really well. In fact, when I left, the chairman was very upset with me. Dr. Ganguly said, "Don't you think what I think of you and you're leaving? Are you crazy?" I was doing duty to myself because I felt very claustrophobic at that time. India was a very closed economy and closed society, and I want to grow as a person. And my friend said, "Hey, you're going to come back to India. Your mind will be much more expanded, and you're unhappy now. You'll be even more unhappy at that point of time." Which, by the way, logic would have told me not to go, but there was something in me was driving me to go, and that was this passion for learning. Uh, to me, I wanted to see the word, the whole word, what the word is like.
Mm.
I wanted to rub shoulders with the best and the brightest, partly to bring in some humility because the job I had made us pretty cocky. This was the best job you had in India, and the girls are chasing you. All the girls are chasing you because you have this job. So you get a little cocky. And when you come to Stanford, everybody's as bright or brighter than you, and they bring
You
you
drop down that totem pole pretty quickly.
so you can learn from everyone. So that humility is the most wonderful quality you can develop all the time.
Mm.
And as somebody said, that if you're aware of your humility, you're not humble enough. So I would say that that's very true.
That's great. And I'm curious because I not to I hate to do generalizations and broad brushes, but in the Indian culture, you're pretty much raised to like go to school and have that career and do that career for the rest of your life. You drop dead and that's it. But for lack of a better word, you're a bit of an odd duck when it comes to that culture, right?
You're so perceptive. I was the first freak, I would say, not Hindustan lever. Nobody see. There's a program called the Management Training Program, and you get hired to become the board of directors, and almost everybody becomes a board of director. If you survive for first 2 3 years as a management trainee. And I was the first management trainee who, after doing really well, I was called the blue-eyed boy of the chairman. That I left, and it has to do with something to do with the fact that I was prepared to take the financial risk because I didn't define myself by money that I had. There was something in me that was driving me to go and learn and see the world. And even if I had to I took huge debt, by the way. Uh, at that time, Stanford was costing me $25,000, which will be about $250,000 today.
Right.
And I had only $2,000 at that point of time, by the way. But I somehow managed it initially by eating only one meal a day,
Wow.
buying your books for the first quarter. So,
And that's a thing that you're kind of flippant about. Like, yeah, I had this high paying job, and then I decided to be a struggling college kid. I would say, Akil, regardless of where you come from, Indian, American culture, European culture, most people don't want to take that risk. Most people don't want to go down the totem pole, like I mentioned. What was it that where did that fearlessness come from?
that came from the fact that I really didn't desire very material things, that I knew that I am capable enough. When I come back, I'll have some job which will give me my daily allowances and rent and education, and I'll be a much better human being, experiencing the whole world rather than becoming cocky. See, I when at that point of time when I left, I was a very, very proud and very biased Indian, that everything Indian is great in all that stuff. And that it was very important for me. Chauvinistic, that was what I was looking. I was very chauvinistic Indian when I left.
Mhm.
And I tell you, that was the difficult decision which transitioned me to all I call as an enlightened human being. To me, humanity trumps, pardon the pardon the pun in there, trumps religiosity, nationality, ethnicity.
Mm.
And that's my transition and growth, that I don't look at you, Joe, as as a Caucasian or whatever. It's just another human being to me, and I feel very good about myself having made that journey. That I look at psychological attributes of people, not any other attribute.
Oh, that's awesome. And on a more serious note, and part of the change that took place over your life was a near miss during the Mumbai attacks, which sort of propelled this journey for you. So, if you wouldn't mind just sharing what happened that day, and how that became such a driver in the essentially, the rest of your life.
Yeah. So I was traveling for 10 days and came back, and we signed a deal. And the guy who would be CEO, Rajiv Kaul, he was a ex from Microsoft. He didn't see me for 10 days, and my managing director Matthew Syriac wanted me to have dinner with him. I said, Matthew, come on, I've been traveling, I'm tired, I put on so much weight. Oh, no, 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 he'll be very disappointed. He's been waiting for you, he's joining because of you. You must have dinner. I said, okay. So this hotel, Trident Hotel, was right next to our office. So for convenience sake, I said, go and book there. So we made a booking at 8:30 for dinner. So since I was going to have dinner, I said, let me go and do the gym. So I thought I'll gym for 90 minutes, make up for the time that I did not gym. And then I started to have pain in my knee after 30 minutes. And my trainer had told me that, if you stop, then don't just start, long. So I said, okay, stop. Called Rajiv and said, Rajiv, can we just have drinks rather than dinner? I never do that. I am very particular about meeting my honor and honor my commitments. But something came to me, and Rajiv said, oh, that'll suit me well because I really didn't cancel my dinner with a friend. So, Joe, you won't believe, we left and the drink place was right next to where the restaurant was, where I was supposed to die on that night. And that we left, and 5 minutes later on, everybody was killed. And there was an issue Rajiv raised, which I told my MD to sort it out. So he went to the office. He couldn't get out of the office because after 5 minutes, they just surrounded the whole complex. So they spent the night over there. And that shook me up. And I said, this is a new life. I was supposed to, everybody there died. And that really was a trigger point to start thinking about what's important. Life is so fragile. What is important? And I don't want to postpone what's important for me. And, obviously, I had to finish my work at Blackstone, my duty at Blackstone. And then I started my this is my true journey. It is my true mission. I got my calling by going to Harvard. And religious literacy and human flourishing, these are two of the callings that I have. And I wrote the first book on Bridges Across Humanity, which has 54 common themes across religions. Joe, you won't believe, when I went to the Harvard Divinity School, I'm on the board of Divinity School, so when I requested meeting with professors, they met me. They said, oh, Akhil, you'll find 10, 15 commonalities, but religion is all about particularity. And when I wrote 54 themes, even I was surprised. And by the way, my website has 108 themes now common. So the lesson is that we have been asking the wrong question about the word, about religion. What's different about my religion? Subtext being, tell me how my religion is superior. And human nature being same, I'm asking the same question. Hey, look, human nature is the same, so all prophet must have taught the same lessons to us. And that's how I started. So, Chat GPT, you put in the prompt, and the answer you get depending on the prompt you have. So I want humanity to start asking the right question we are common, and what's the common heritage we have. And this is the message the world needs the most. And the same thing on the second inspiration for me was, in spite of all the material wealth that we acquired and the knowledge we have gained, and this is actually Robert Boch, who was the previous president of Harvard, he said that we quintupled our GDP in last 50 years, but we've not increased our flourishing. And that paradox is what inspired me to explore my second book.
Wow, that's so great. And I'm just curious because people have this when a traumatic incident happened in their life, whether they're struck with a disease or something happens. It's the why me? Why did this happen to me? Did you have that in reverse in terms of why did I my leg hurt while I was at the gym? Why did I decide to did you start questioning a lot of the parts of your life as to why you were put in this position to then reinvent yourself later on?
Joe, you're so perceptive. I really thought it was, I mean, I don't believe in God, but it was God who, that's the only way I can say it,
Right.
that this was meant to be. And many of my friends say, hey, because you're so good to your parents, it is their blessing because of which you were saved. You go, and also my parents always taught us to be very kind to the poor people. So, we, on my 10th birthday, my mom fed people outside all religions, by the way, outside the church and mosque and Hindu temple, Jain temple, Sikh temple. About 100 people I gave food on my 10th birthday.
Hmm.
So for us, that was very important. And so many of my friends, hey, all these good things you and your family do, because of which you were saved, otherwise you're meant to die. So, you know, whatever it is, I will not know the truth, but there was something which saved me on that day. You're absolutely right. I was thinking about the reverse. Why was I saved? And what do I do with this gift that a new life has for me? Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. And obviously you chose to look at the bright side of things. And when you were at Harvard, you studied happiness, which where I'm sure that like if you bring that up to someone, they're like, "Wait, you go to Harvard for to learn more about happiness?" So tell me how that all came together.
Well, it's very simple. See, I'm not a writer, right? So, and yet it was coming to me that I have something to add on the happiness literature. And most of it, Joe, is coming from the fact that I grew up in the East. And I should say, in Sir John Templeton's word, that the wisdom of East is wider than the sky and deeper than the ocean. And there were very, very, very many concepts that I thought that most of the happiness books and courses on the West have Western mindset, and they're missing some deep insights which can benefit humanity. So I said, before I embark on that, let me see the latest state of the art. So that's why I took all the courses on happiness, read all the books on happiness. And then there's one, I made a friend and I was taking a course on happiness. She was a teaching fellow in Professor Renard's happiness class, and she was teaching 150 students. So I made an outline of what my thoughts are. I showed it to her. I said, oh, no, Akhil, you must write this book. I wish I had this book when I was teaching my students. Many of the questions they asked me, I couldn't answer. So that's what inspired me. Just that conversation. Sarah Zubi was her name. She inspired me. That conversation really inspired me that I must write that book.
Let me double click on that, Akil. What is Western culture get quote unquote wrong about happiness that you see that maybe Eastern cultures sort of fill in some of those gaps?
I won't say wrong. I'd say it's incomplete.
Okay.
And I think the key distinction I can make is two things. One is sometimes we are seeking happiness externally in the Western framework. And all the Eastern frameworks tell you that happiness comes is inside you. You don't have to seek it, it's inside you. Uh, and the second difference is that happiness is a byproduct of leading a meaningful life. And even in many of the Western thinkers have said, if you chase happiness, happiness is like a cat. If you chase the cat, cat doesn't come to you. But you sit quietly, cat will come and sit down and give you a kiss and all that stuff.
Mm.
So that is what I have experienced in my life. I never chased. In fact, c- come to think of it, we never thought about happiness when we were growing up till I went to college or something. What's my duty? You know, I have faith in there's a cosmic order, and I have faith in the cosmic order, and that cosmic order is maintained if I do my duty. What's my duty? And that's what I have led my life, and I would say I've had my ups and downs. I've experienced fairness, unfairness. I've experienced jealousy. I've experienced all those human emotions that you can think of. But I think during all that stuff, I maintained my equanimity because there was an anchor inside me. And today I can articulate that as that anchor was understanding the three deepest longings are love, learn, and play. And nothing I would allow that happens externally to me to take me away from my loving, learning, and playing instincts.
That's great. It's funny that you said that about like you just don't like learn about happiness, and I think that's going back to talk about the generational chat was like I think now there is more focus on happiness at work, happiness with your career, happiness with your choices. Whereas growing up, like the idea of being happy at work was like, who gives a shit, right? Like who cares if you're happy at work? Like if you have a good job, you're able to support a family, take care of yourself, be a reliable person in the community. The happiness quotient was never brought up. Like no one cared, like the idea of happiness. But it is great that there is now people are more open to the fact that how not only happiness is not only good for your soul, but it's actually good for productivity and good for the greater good of your community, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm not against happiness. I'm all for happiness. But the point I'm making is that we should be looking to lead a meaningful life, and happiness will be a byproduct of that. So
Right.
part of the transition that's happening is that as we have created a lot more wealth, you know, people are much more wealthier than ever before. So then you can look for higher order things. It's like when money is not a constraint in your life, then suddenly you realize that there's more to life than money, right? And same thing that uh, when you have uh, when you have a society that has become so much richer in terms of its offerings, right? So then you start to look at all the offerings, so happiness and flourishing and so many new offerings that have come in as a result of our, our growth in our material wealth. That happiness has become a subject because more people are able to meet the basic needs much more easily than they could before. And and I think one of the things I insight came to me is that human beings need only 25% of their energy, psychic energy, to meet our biological needs, right? 75% of the psychic energy is free, which is not there in animals, by the way. So how do you divert that psychological energy, psychic energy? And that's where the question of happiness and meaning come in. You know, how do we allocate our psychic energy so that we get meaning or happiness or flourishing in life, essentially?
And you talked about earlier the fact that you know a lot of very successful people in the book. You talk about the fact that there's a lot of unhappiness, low happiness with hugely successful people. Um, what patterns do you see stand out amongst that subset of the successful? Like because you mentioned, money doesn't mean money doesn't mean happiness or whatever. And I always joke like people who say that usually have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But tell me about the people that are uh,
See, that's a very good question, Joe. Two things happen. One is you start to define yourself by all those money, power, and fame.
Mhm.
And once you define yourself by that, you seek more and more of that. So that's the first thing that happen. And as a result of that, what I call as means ends inversion, what was supposed to be your means becomes your ends. And why is that a problem? Because I this is my insight, the key insight that I have in my book is that I believe that our authentic self wants to love, learn, and play. And then we have this socialized self that wants to make money, fame, and power, which is where I met a lot of success. People like Mukesh Ambani is worth $100 billion. I don't know Steve Ballmer that well, but he's worth $100 billion,
he's doing
and many
okay.
other.
Yeah.
I want. Yeah, yeah. It's okay. I think he looks quite happy to me. So,
Yeah.
so what happens is when you're spending, and by the way, I experienced that in my personal life when I was devoted to making Blackstone a successful company. I was really starving my authentic self. I did not have time, although I was aware of it that I'm starving my authentic self. But most people are not aware of it. They feel that just chase of money, power, and self because that's how they define. And the society reinforces that. If you're successful, there's so much of sucking up that goes on. I was on the cover of a few Indian magazines. You know, Obviously it gave me a kick out of it, but fortunately, because my father was there, they don't take this too seriously. So because of my parents, because of my friends I had, I could never stray too much in that direction. Getting that name, fame, and all the enchantments, the mammon that I got. I enjoyed them, but I never let them define myself. The problem happens is when you start, those things define who you are.
Wow. And let's look at the third leg of that stool because we've kind of covered the love and learning part of your life, but play. What does play look like in the world of Akhil Gupta?
So, if you read my book, play means, so let me say what Einstein said about research. Research is nothing but a combinatorial play, right? So play is the manifestation of play is like writing is a play, for example. So writing a book to me is the love, learn, and play. I wrote this because I love humanity and I want to share my learnings with the humanity. There's a huge amount of learnings, and without the playfulness that came from uh, the this finding synergy between the East and West. That's to me a play element. So poetry, which I like, is a play, right? Uh, I love singing. I like songs, poetry, art, research, innovation. All these are play activities. So play is where you know I play Sudoku, one puzzle of Sudoku every day to keep my brain from not deteriorating. So that's a different kind of play. So play manifests in so many different ways, and the to me, when you lose track of time doing anything, that's to me play. Meditation, right? When you're meditating and you lose track of time, that's like play. So play has huge amount of manifestation, and if you are conscious of what play is all about, then I think our life will be fuller. So, by the way, Ashi, my grandniece who inspired me when I gave the book to her and her sister, which is 6 years older to her. So for about a week, they will go every day before at dinner table. They say, "Hey, tell me, how did you love? How did you learn? How did you play today?" And my nephews are looking out. Such wonderful things are coming out of that discussion.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
I
so
would
good.
encourage all families to teach their kids every before on the dining table to say, "Hey, how did you love today? How did you play today? And how did you learn? What did you learn today?"
No, that's great. And on the subject of family, I always take folks behind the dedication of the book, and you dedicated this book to your mom and dad. And you wrap up, you say, your profound message to your children now echoes through the pages of this book, reaching the world. Why was it important to dedicate the book to mom and dad?
As I mentioned to you, the one attribute, humility, that is so important for a flourishing life. I think second is gratitude, and to some extent, they're two sides of the same coin. And I cannot tell you how grateful I am to my parents. I am who I am because of my parents. I got their genes, I got their values, right? And basically, I would say that that determined my entire career. And the values they taught was not just by books, but the way they led their life. When we met a rich relative, we didn't pay much attention to them, but we met a good relative, we paid more attention to them. We expressed our love to them. So those are the kind of values that you pick up. That the authenticity and genuineness of people is what you. So I generally feel that I am what I am today because of my parents. And I would say the second institution that I did not give credit to, but I will take this opportunity, was my first job, Hindustan Unilever. Because although my personal DNA was formed in family, but my professional DNA was formed over there. And this company was the most upright, most honest. Even today, is the best job in India, just like Blackstone is in business school. Hindustan Unilever is still in the best job to seek for in the business schools in India. Uh, and India was full of bureaucracy and corruption, and this was the island of honesty and excellence, which at that time India was not known for, by the way. So I got those values there, and to stand up for what you think is right, to stand up for not doing anything just for expediency, pay a price for standing for corruption. Many times, Hindustan Lever won't get approval because they won't bribe, and approval would take 3 years, but they will stand for it. So I would say gratitude is and humility are to me really the acid test of character of a human being.
I love that. And last, let's give a little plug to the Universal Enlightenment Forum, which you created. For folks not familiar, tell us a little more about that as we wrap things up.
So basically, uh, initially when I went to Harvard, I thought I'll do impact investing, because the third company I can be very grateful to was Blackstone. I learned so much in Blackstone about investing. In some ways, Blackstone and Hindustan Lever the same, highest integrity, highest quality, highest best people hired. But when I exposed myself to 36 courses, then sort of a dot started to connect. And two or three things happened. One was, at that time, the president of Harvard was Drew Faust, and she came out with One Harvard, basically breaking the silos. So I said, if silos among the different departments and colleges in the university, and I said, I'm an international guy. Let me try and break the silos of civilizations and times and cultures and nations. What can I do to break the civilizations of time and culture? And the second inspiration came from David Brooks, actually, who said that the right question to ask at this stage of your life is what life is asking of you, not what you want out of life. So, what is life asking of me? Somebody who traversed a very wide spectrum in terms of cultures and economic stratas and educational development and all that stuff. And I think I rose above all that stuff to think like a human being rather than any of the attributes. So I said, this is what I need to pass on. Uh, and the best way to do that is through writing a foundation. And that's just the start of UF. Is now we've written these two books. We send a weekly letter. I've written 108 commonalities that we are now sending to 1 million people. And we have an opening rate of 10 to 20%. I had the highest letter opened as 247,000 people. It's a cold email that I send to 247,000 people discussing about different commonalities. And now we're going to start with my next book on human flourishing. Same weekly or bi-weekly letters. Idea is to, uh, you know, I don't know how many books I sell. Let's say 10,000 books I sell. But then through my foundation's email and website, I'm reaching a lot more people. And we have every day we are posting my message on love, learn, and play and commonality of religions. And I have had 2 million. The last post was 2 million, whatever impressions or what you call it. I don't understand these things very well, but the guy who's doing it seems to be happy, and I'm working on how to make impact. So my goal is that whatever I've learned, and I've learned at a very high academic, from high academic. These are rock star professors at Harvard teaching from the latest research, and 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 the most wonderful contribution they make is curating the courses. So I'm learning from really, I mean, the most of the important philosophers, most of the important religions and psychological insights I've learned at Harvard through courses, as well as, Harvard also has amazing power of convening. And so every day there was some rock star guy coming to Harvard. So a lot of that absorption that has taken place, that my goal was to synthesize all that stuff. See, most people don't have the time and the luxury that I had for 2 years, and that too at a stage in my life when when I went to a class, the the undergraduate person is absorbing something very different than I'm absorbing. So I said, "This is what an amazing opportunity I got, and I can't waste this stuff. And the best use of my life will be to share the synthesized insights with the group." So that's what my uef.org does, by the way. On human flourishing and religious literacy are my two main themes as of now. I'm working on spirituality now because I see huge hunger on spirituality, and also I see a lot of snake oil salesmen packaging that and misleading people. So that's something that I'm working on next.
Awesome. And you can start by reading Akhil's book, Love, Learn, Play, A Simple Formula for a Happier, More Meaningful Life. He is Akhil Gupta. Akhil, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much for asking great questions.
And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to find out more information about Akhil and our other amazing authors, go to theauthoritycompany.com.